Mark started here. We talked about the pillars of the BSA program, the budding importance of risk assessment, but you've got to have a BSA officer, duly appointed, adequately supported, and boy, is that rich for commentary, adequately supported. Do you have the budget? Do you have the staff? I think most people are struggling to feel adequately supported as a BSA officer, and yet that's the corporate obligation, is to make sure that they're adequately supported. They do a risk assessment, which is what we're going to talk about here today. Do the policies and procedures around your specific risk, because you have risks that nobody else has. If you do all of your business in one county, you have different risks than if you work through a broker network throughout the entire country, and your business becomes more anonymous. Those risks are different. So the duty on the BSA officer is to look with a savvy eye at the risks that you've got, the type of business, the geography of your business, and assess just exactly what those risks are. As I talk to BSA officers and as I talk to senior management, I think these are the skills that are valued by those who run BSA departments. BSA officers love metrics. They run metrics to see aberrations in origination data, to see aberrations in default data. You can gather so much by metrics, and BSA officers tend to be big fans of metrics. They're good writers because you have to write to the board, you have to write to senior management, and most scary of all, you have to write to the feds. You have to do these SAR reports, and those can be intimidating. Experience. I find that no one starts out their career to say, I'm going to be a BSA officer. You kind of find your way into it through compliance, through origination, or knowing your business. And BSA officers are no fools. They don't suffer fools gladly. They know how your business works. And so they bring that experience to it. Judgment. Judgment is important because there comes a point where you have to decide whether you're going to take a set of suspicious facts and report that to the feds, or you are not. And you've got a particularly difficult row to hoe sometimes if you're butting up against maybe some of the sales inside of your organization. There can be conflicts between those desiring prudence and those desiring sales, and it can be a real friction point. All right, so let's talk about risk management. This is the classic acronym for risk management. If you are going to handle the risk within your organization, you have to make it specific, measurable. It's got to be achievable, relevant, and timely. No horse out of the barn. You've got to get this, and you've got to be able to defend your metrics. I want to add a few things to that mantra of being smart about risk assessment. But remember smart, because you need to measure your own actions against it. Among my skill sets, I am a pilot. And pilots spend a lot of time worried about risk. Anybody in here a pilot? No hands. A lot of your training is on risk management. You have yourself to manage. 8 hours bottle to throttle. You've got rules about when you can fly. Are you anxious? Are you stressed? Have you just come out of a fight? One of the accident studies that you study when you're getting your pilot's license is John F. Kennedy Jr.'s accident off of New York, and all of the mistakes that were made by him, including the day that he got in his accident, he had to have his cast removed. He was late to the airport. Traffic was bad in Manhattan. And he was trying to get to a wedding. So he had all this pressure. I have to go, I have to go. And as many people have thought about it afterwards, you were a Kennedy. You could have called the G5 and flown up there. That wasn't going to be a problem. You didn't have to fly your own plane. But I think he was trying to impress his wife, his sister-in-law, and he flew when about 10 factors were against him. Okay? So risk assessment is first prioritized. You and your business have priorities, and you need to be, as the BSA officer, in those discussions at the highest level of your organization about what your priorities are. And let me give some context to that. In the crash of 2008, how many were in the business in 2008? Half, more than half. I think it's fair to say that a lot of the priorities from some of the major lenders that went bust during the crash got out of whack. They were going for market share. They were going for short-term profits, not long. They got their priorities a little out of whack, and it led to the origination of a bunch of loans that shouldn't have been originated. What voices were not heard in the boardroom during 2005, 6, and 7? Hey, maybe we shouldn't make those loans. They might not be safe. Those voices got stifled. So inside of every organization, there needs to be a balancing of these voices about what our priorities are as a company.